you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Living the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego. And this episode is all about diving deep into the very core of how we can use calories, carbs, and cheat codes to help us achieve our fat loss goals. Get ready to unlock the ultimate cheat codes for shedding those stubborn pounds as we demystify the world of calories and their impact on our bodies. But that's not all. We have a game changer for you. Stay tuned as we reveal the secret to embracing carbs the healthy way, so you can fuel your body while still achieving your weight loss goals. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and armed with the knowledge to take charge of your well-being. And based on what the experts are suggesting, it's time to level up our health and unleash our full potential. So here are 6 things that you need to know about calories and weight loss. If you try to navigate the online space searching for ways to lose weight, there are many misconceptions, and more specifically, there are many misconceptions when it comes to weight loss and the role that calories play with weight loss. For a long time, many people in the wellness community thought that calories didn't matter, as long as they came from whole foods. However, calories do play a significant role in weight loss. But calories in, calories out, that old energy balance model is not the full story either. Calories in, calories out, yeah, whatever that means, that's true, but both the quality and the quantity of your calories matter. And quality influences quantity. I'll say that again, quality influences quantity. Temporarily tracking your calories and monitoring your protein intake can help you shift your body composition and reach your weight loss goals in an easy and sustainable way. It's time to have an honest conversation about the role of calories in weight loss and shifting your overall body composition. There's a common misunderstanding in the wellness community that as long as you're eating whole foods, calories don't matter, but it's time to set the record straight. The goal for today's episode is to clear up the confusion around calories based on what I've learned to be true from my experience, from working with clients, and from experts like the Dhru Purohit podcast, Max Lugavere, and the team over at the Levels Glucose Monitoring Company. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what they think about this topic, but before we jump in, a quick note here. We're all in different stages of our health journeys. And I just want to acknowledge that weight loss might not be the goal for everyone. So before continuing, I want to be super clear on who this episode is for and who it's not for. This episode is for if you want to shift your body composition, if you want to lose weight, and if you want to maintain a healthy weight, then keep listening. But this episode is not for if you have a history of disordered eating or an unhealthy relationship with counting calories and tracking foods. This is not going to be the episode for you if that's the case. Now, in Dhru Purohit's latest newsletter, he shares 6 core concepts about calories and weight loss. Let's get started with core concept number 1, which sets the stage for the rest. It has less to do with calories and more to do with owning your right to feel good in your own skin. The first core concept about calories and weight loss is it's your body. And if you want to, you can shift your body composition. That's on you. This has somehow become a controversial topic with 2 very different and extreme schools of thought. The first is that many people believe that they need to take a radical approach to weight loss, or that there are a million things that we need to do in order to be healthy. So that's kind of like what they call an orthorexic, if you have to think about being so healthy and it almost becomes a disorder. But as Max Lugavere pointed out in one of his recent social media posts, that's simply not the case. He posted, "Some influencers make it seem like you've got to do 1,500 things every day just to be healthy. That's BS. These simple things get you 90% of the way there. Walk, drink water, strength train, morning exposure to sun, prioritize protein-rich foods, and reduce packaged junk foods." walk, drink water, strength train, morning sun exposure, prioritize protein-rich foods, and reduced packaged junk foods. As long as you're doing the basics most of the time, you don't need to get caught up in the granular details. Like Max always says, don't major in the minor things. Don't major in the minors. Now, the other side of the extreme argument is that we should accept our body composition as it is. Just accept it, despite the risks that come with being overweight or obese. Some refer to this as the body positivity movement, which, by the way, I'm all about. Unrealistic beauty standards are a thing of the past, and a healthy body looks different for everyone. My gripe with the body positivity influencers and the news media is that they'll shame individuals for wanting to lose weight. They'll shame them, or they'll shame them for wanting to adopt a healthier lifestyle. This massive overcorrection enables behaviors that cause people to become seriously ill. It's essential to strike a balance between the two extremes. So how do calories play into this? Many wellness circles and even some wellness practitioners, they subscribe to the notion that calories don't matter as long as you're eating whole foods. And body positivity followers villainize calories for contributing to, quote, toxic diet culture. And they certainly can be if they lead to obsessive thinking. But the truth is, calories are just a measurement of energy. And we need to pay attention to how much energy we're consuming if we want to lose weight or if we want to improve our body composition. Regardless of the source, energy is energy. The next core concept about calories and weight loss is number 2, both the quality of your calories and total calories matter. Transitioning from the standard American diet, or the SAD, to a nutrient-dense whole food diet is step number 1 for anyone embarking on a health journey. And hey, it might even lead to an initial weight loss just by resetting your metabolism, balancing your blood sugar, and other things of that nature. However, if you're still struggling to lose weight, or eventually you hit a plateau, it is likely that you could be eating more calories than you're expending. Yes, calories in, calories out does matter. We'll talk about this more next. In my experience with working with people who are shifting their body composition, I found that aside from carbs, fats are the easiest macronutrient to overeat. It's also the most energy dense at 9 calories per gram. That said, calories from concentrated fats such as nut butters and oils, even healthy oils like extra virgin olive oil, these can add up quickly. Additionally, processed, quote, healthy foods like keto snacks or bars or gluten-free chips, those are super easy and delicious to eat and overeat, which can easily lead to a calorie surplus, making it much harder to lose weight. This is where energy balance comes into play. The third core concept about calories and weight loss is number 3, to lose weight, you must be in a slight calorie deficit. And I used to think that total calories didn't really matter as long as the food that made up those calories was a nice high quality. And of course, it's more difficult to overeat when you're eating healthy and mainly whole foods, and if you're prioritizing protein and fiber at every meal for sure. But we can't deny that you must be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. You must be in an energy deficit to lose weight. That's just science, which is where the energy balance conversation comes in. Calories in equals calories out is maintenance. Calories in is greater than calories out equals gain. Calories in is less than calories out equals loss. Essentially, this means that we will maintain our weight if we eat as many calories, energy, as we expend in a day. And we will lose weight if we consume fewer calories than we expend. This might sound familiar based on the government's dietary guidelines, but here's what they fail to mention. The quality of your calories matters. Metabolic health, hormonal health, and satiety are all super important for regulating your hunger and for sure for weight loss. And these are controlled by the quality of our diet. The bottom line, when our diet comes mostly from nutrient-dense whole foods, it's a lot easier to maintain a healthy body composition, or it's a lot easier to lose weight. The fourth core concept about calories and weight loss is calculating your basal metabolic rate is so important to understand the total number of calories your body needs to function at rest. So you can use an online calculator. Literally, if you Google search right now, online BMR calculator, basal metabolic rate, and there are tons. You could use an in-body scanner like our gym does as well, or you could use an equation that gets you into the general vicinity of where you want to be. You could use your body weight and multiply your body weight by 10 and then multiply your body weight by 12. And that's going to be the range of calories that you're shooting for. Your body weight times 10, your body weight times 12. Then find ways to get into a calorie deficit once you find that number. And remember, it's about creating a slight deficit, not starving yourself or going to the extremes. Prioritizing protein and dialing back your calories while increasing your energy output through things like aerobic exercise, cardio, and resistance training, lifting. These are easy things that you can leverage to get you there. Some days are going to be high when it comes to calories, some days are going to be low, but what you're looking for at the end of the week, as long as your weekly average is in a slight calorie deficit, if you maintain that over long-term consistency, your weight is going to drop. That's science. If done correctly, you should see your body hold on to most of your muscle. You should not lose more than 25% muscle when cutting, meaning that if you lose 4 pounds, you're hopefully not losing more than about a pound of muscle. And if done correctly, your body weight will slowly drop for sustainable results, maybe shooting for around 1% of your body weight each week. Or if you're going off of body fat percentage, maybe shooting for 0.5% loss of your body fat per week. That would be safe and effective loss. And if you're extremely obese, you might want to take your desired body weight, and that's what you're looking for out of all these numbers, your desired body weight in pounds. The fifth core concept about calories and weight loss is temporarily weigh or measuring your foods. This is going to be a game changer for you. Studies show that people tend to underestimate their calorie intake by a whopping 40%. That's so big. A food scale or an app like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer or the RP Diet app, these can be super helpful tools for understanding portion sizes and how your daily calories stack up. Almost all of the experts that I've listened to in podcasts and read in audiobooks in things that have to do with weight loss have recommended tracking for at least a week to get a baseline of your calorie and protein intake. It's only temporary. And yes, it will feel annoying. It's going to feel tedious at first. There's really no way around it. It's just like if you're going to be doing a budget for your expenses and your revenue. You have to figure out what process works best for you when it comes to tracking. You have to make the habit of recording every time you spend and every time you collect. You have to factor in goals. You have to factor in and realize that there are small expenses that you may have forgot about, like little apps on your phone or auto pay bills. The same thing applies to tracking sauces and dressings and those little dips and sips and licks and tastes when it comes to your diet. It's really not an easy process. I wish I could tell you it is, but it is so enlightening if you make the sacrifice and if you do it correctly. Personally, it was super helpful for me to get a sense of just how much I was off when it comes to my serving size estimates. Like I had zero clue what a serving size of nuts look like, or what a serving size of peanut butter, or what one serving of protein like chicken or turkey would get me as far as grams of protein. But the more that you do this, the more intuitive your tracking can become. And even if you have tracked before, like in the past, it could really help to revisit it a few times a year just to make sure that you are on the right track, just to kind of recalibrate and make sure that you're still on point. So getting a scale, it costs really cheap on Amazon, and temporarily weigh foods, put them into a tracker, and just get some awareness around what foods are. And that kind of plays into this last core concept, number 6. While calories play a significant role in weight loss, it's essential to acknowledge that other factors like sleep, stress, and hormones may also come into play. There are certain conditions like insomnia or chronic stress, or even like thyroid conditions, autoimmunity, or inflammation disorders those things can make it really, really hard to lose weight. And yes, although these can be frustrating roadblocks to weight loss, I think that it is super important to look at your total daily calorie intake before you really blame these conditions and kind of become the victim, right? What I'm saying is it doesn't hurt to start paying attention to calories while also working with your doctor to address any underlying issues. You can attack it from multiple directions. I think it's time that we shift the conversation around calories. Yes, they absolutely matter, but not to the degree that warrants obsession, or to the degree that it fuels unhealthy dietary habits. Even if you eat clean, it's never been easier to overeat those quote healthy foods. They have hyper palatable packaged snack foods that contain a high concentration of calories that are easy to eat on the go while we're overworking ourselves, stressing ourselves, not taking time to appreciate just what food is. And I am certainly to blame for this as well. But track your calorie intake for 1 week or 2 and see how it shifts your perspective on the quantity of food that you're eating. You have the right to pursue your ideal body composition, and by following those 6 core concepts, you can achieve it. And I want to shift towards a really cool e-document that Max Lugavere put out talking about how he used these 10 strategies to pretty easily drop 6 to 7 pounds of pure fat in 45 days. And he called them the 10 cheat codes for fat loss. Some of these cheat codes will piggyback on what we just talked about, and others will enhance our understanding on how we personally can join Max in dropping fat if that is our goal. Cheat code number 1, you must create a consistent calorie deficit. That means generally that you have to ingest fewer calories than you expend in a 24-hour period. I know. How many times can we say it? But this is the biggest deal. And this is a big but right here as well. How you do it makes all the difference. How you do it. Max used a combination of cutting back on fat and carbohydrate calories, the calories ingested, and increasing energy expenditure. The way that he did this was through simply walking. So yes, calorie deficit is the most important thing, but how you do it is important. And he used cutting back fats and carbs, and he increased his energy expenditure through walking. He did this and he created a 400 to 500 calorie deficit each day. 400 to 500. That's a little aggressive in my opinion, but let's hear him out. How many calories should you eat to lose 1 pound of fat per week? A great and easy goal, 1 pound of fat per week. Use this starting point, your body weight in pounds times 10 to 12. Use 10 if you're completely sedentary. You have a desk job, maybe you work out 3 times a week, but you really, you're mostly sedentary throughout the day. And then use 12 if you're super active. Most people should start with maybe 11, maybe 10 and a half. Using a 200-pound person as this example, this person can aim for 2,050 calories all the way up to maybe 2,150 calories. This is a little bit more of a shortcut than the best way to do it, in my opinion. This is a very general equation. The best way to really do it, in my opinion, is not the easy way. It's to figure out how many calories you have been eating on average. What has been your average? If you can eat normally for 1 month, don't change anything. Eat how you normally have. And then track your calories as close as you can in that month and get a daily average at the very end. That, in my opinion, is the best way to get your starting position. But yeah, it takes a month. And it takes a month of dedicated tracking, which is really, really challenging for most people to do it that way and start. So whichever strategy you use, you can use the easy way and just use that equation, your body weight times 10 to 12, 10 if you're sedentary, 12 if you're active, or you can actually put in the work to figure out where you're currently at. It's a much, much stronger starting point. It's like if you were using a GPS and you had the end destination put into the map, but you were you're just in San Diego. You're just in Southern California. You're not at the address of your house, right where it needs to be. Like that's where it would be if you really took the time. But you can get there both ways. Whichever strategy you use, you must also track your metrics. So your body composition, track maybe your weight on the scale, track your body fat. That's another way. I really like tracking inches around the body parts that you'd like to see change in. So actually getting a tape measure and measuring those body parts. And then you could also do progress photos once a week. So taking a photo of your front, side, and back once a week at the same time each day, that's a great way to see changes, like objective changes in your body. And once you have your calories and your body metrics and you're starting to get all these data points, then you can decide if you're on track with how many calories and how much food you're eating, or if you're not moving towards your goals, you're going the other way. Then all you have to do is make a small change to the calories in and or your movement, and then you continue the trial and error process. So that's cheat code number 1, is you must create a consistent calorie deficit. There's many ways to do that. Number 2, Max's cutting diet was by no means a low-fat diet, but cutting dietary fat will be helpful versus only cutting carbs for 3 primary reasons. Number 1, fats and oils are highly caloric dense. 1 tablespoon of oil has as many calories as a whole apple. Max says that he'd rather eat a whole apple if he had to choose between a whole apple and a tablespoon of oil. Number 2, cutting fat doesn't significantly impact your satiety, your hunger levels, if you keep your fiber and your protein up. Your fiber and your protein can keep you full, and you can cut fat, and it's not going to affect your hunger levels. For example, the apple, that is going to be way more satiating than a tablespoon of oil. And then number 3, carbs, not fat, carbs help keep your energy in the gym. Hello, glycogen, which is essential for having good workouts to maintain muscle. So Max mainly cut added fats and oils, yes, even limiting his extra virgin olive oil, which is touted as a huge superfood, and he loved it, but he cut it down because he knew it was easy to overeat. He also cut out dark chocolate and fattier meats, and then he limited his fat from the lean meats that he bought to single-digit percentage. So he chose like 93% ground beef or leaner steaks. And he also cut some calories by limiting some of the things that he eats on the daily, such as eggs. Knowing that this is meant to be temporary, he also swapped all his full fat dairy for reduced fat or for fat-free versions to cut the calories and optimize for protein. Very easy. And remember, you don't have to count calories, but all calories count. Remember, he's not cutting these foods because they are bad. So if you hear him say, I cut these out, he's not cutting them out because they're bad. He's just leveraging math. He's leveraging the fact that fat has 9 calories per gram. So he's essentially allocating less room in his diet for those higher caloric dense foods. I hope that makes sense. Number 3, there's no need to run or kill yourself doing cardio. Walking is literally fat loss magic. He got on the treadmill. He lives in LA, so he got on the treadmill, not much places to walk over there, and he walked 1 to 2 miles a day. Most of the time, he was at an incline of 6 and a speed of 3.5. That's like a gentle walk uphill. That's it. No running unless he wanted to, which he said he seldom did. Plus, it depletes energy when you run that is more useful putting towards your resistance training. So you're lifting. Just walk more. It's a great opportunity to listen to podcasts. Treadmill is fine, but extra health bonus points if you can get outside. Number 4 cheat code, don't reduce protein, increase it. Don't reduce protein, increase it. Max and myself, we shoot for getting roughly 1 times our body weight in pounds in grams of protein every day. So he weighs 185 grams. I weigh about that as well, trying to get that amount of grams in protein every day. Super important. This helps to maintain muscle and keeps you not as hungry. And yes, whey protein shakes can be great for this as well. A supplemental shake if you need to, totally fine to add into your day. He does 1 to 2 servings of whey per day. This is a caveat though, if you have a significant weight to lose, you know who you are. If you have a lot of weight to lose, you can just use your goal weight for this protein, kind of like the calories in this calculation. Number 5, assume you won't get weaker in the gym and aim to lift the exact same intensity you do when you're not on a cut. So when you're on a cut, you're cutting calories, you're cutting energy a little bit. Most people assume that they're going to be getting weaker. He's saying don't assume that you're going to get weaker and lift the exact same amount. He also says take creatine. Keep taking creatine. It's a brain and health supplement as well as a lot of other things. It's a great supplement to take. You do not have to cycle off of it when you're cutting. 3 to 5 grams or more, depending on your size. I take 10 grams a day, and I have for many years. I love it. I suggest it to everybody. This is going to help you preserve your hard-earned muscle and ensure that you're losing mainly body fat. Keep lifting heavy. Keep taking creatine. Number 6, have meals that you can eat every day and stack. For example, the same 500-calorie breakfast every day. Eat it. And then the similar 500-calorie lunch every day. Eat the same way. This leaves you with about 1,000 calories to go wild for your dinner if you're looking for a 2,000-calorie diet. So if you have a handful of meals that you know are about 500 calories, this really makes it easy for you not to track long term. And please note, some people are going to love variety in their meals. And if that's the case, you're going to have to continue tracking calories if you're looking to understand where you're at. Obviously, this list of cheat codes is not a thing that you have to do, except for perhaps cheat code number 1, which is the calorie deficit. But these are just what Max found works well for him. Find a standard meal or find a few standard meals that you know are about a certain amount of calories. And that way you know exactly where you're at throughout the day. And if you know that you've eaten more than your average or you're less, then you can kind of adjust intuitively, is what he's saying. Cheat code number 7, eat home more. This is a huge one. Restaurants cover their foods in who knows what. Even their innocuous roasted veggie dishes. They cover them in butter, oils, caloric sauces. Man, it all adds up. And it adds up to a ton of completely useless phantom calories. Yes, it tastes delicious, but it's impossible to know what you're consuming. If you're trying to get a better view of what's going on in your body, you have to minimize the variables. You have to take more control. Eat at home more. Minimize eating out. Cheat code number 8, get a digital food scale and audit your serving size. So we kind of talked about this. This scale is a major biohack. It's also not as hard as you think. For me, I find it quite entertaining. I look at it with curiosity. I'm measuring almost everything. Maybe reconsider this one if if you tend to be a little bit obsessive or if you have a suboptimal relationship with food. But if you don't have a bad relationship with food, and if you can look at it with curiosity, you can get a super cheap one on Amazon, put a couple of small bowls on top of it, like stack bowls on top of it, and then pour your food into the top bowl, measure, pull that bowl off and tear the scale and zero it out, and just keep doing that with all the ingredients. And then as you do that, you have your phone right next to you, put them into MyFitnessPal. And then the more that you do this, the more the app is going to auto-suggest the foods that you've already eaten and the amount that you normally ate those foods with. It becomes so much more streamlined the more you do it. It becomes automatic. It really does. It's going to be tedious at first. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be hard. It's going to be annoying. You are going to forget from time to time. Just stay with it until it becomes a habit, just like anything else. Number 9, absolutely no boredom snacking. No boredom snacking. This is a big thing and will definitely be a challenge if you work from home. I've been there. Or if you have a habit of decompressing at night with TV and you find yourself automatically zombie shuffling over to the fridge, even though you just opened that fridge door and closed it 5 minutes ago after not seeing anything that you wanted. Why do we do that? I often end my day by eating dinner and then snacking after watching TV, and usually it's out of boredom. I'm going to eat a square of dark chocolate here, I'm going to eat a handful of nuts there, some dried fruit, and then damn, it adds up to a few hundred calories. And for most people, this can keep you at your maintenance calories even though you're trying to be in a deficit. Or worse, it's going to bump you up into a surplus without you knowing, and it's going to be taking you further away from your fat loss, body composition goals. But if you're on a cut, the point of a cut is, wait for it, to cut, to be in that deficit. Number 10, consistency and patience will win every single time. Consistency and patience. The whole point of a slower cut is to preserve your muscle and for it to be something that you can sustain long term. Also, keep in mind that weight fluctuates. Water weight, food you're carrying in your gut, things like that. Your weight is going to fluctuate. So check the scale every few days if you want to know, but know that weight loss is not linear. The mirror or a tape measure is a much better guide. Now, I know after hearing what Max did, I can already hear a few of you saying, but I don't feel like I can eat carbs. I don't feel comfortable eating carbs. If I'm going to cut some of the fat down, that means that I have to have a higher percentage of carbohydrates. And I really don't think I can do that. I'm going to gain so much weight. So I want to finish this episode by sharing 12 healthy ways to eat carbohydrates from the team over at Levels Continuous Glucose Monitoring Company. They have millions of people, including myself, tracking their food and getting real-time data on their continuous glucose monitor that they wear on their skin of what exactly that food is doing to their blood sugar. That is some powerful data right there to have access to. So let's listen to what they have to say. Eating for metabolic health doesn't mean never touching a carb. There are healthy sources and different ways to eat carbohydrates. Eating for metabolic health and a balanced blood sugar is not the same as eating low carb. Yes, all carbohydrates become glucose, blood sugar, when you eat them. And yes, extra glucose raises your blood sugar levels. That is true. But not all carbs are the same, and not all carbs lead to the large glucose spikes that we want to avoid for optimal health. Foods like vegetables, fruits, and beans. These contain carbohydrates, and nixing them from your diet would mean missing out on some of the best sources of fiber and micronutrients. These nutrients are important for healthy gut microbiome and powering countless physiological reactions that support your optimal health and energy levels. The carbs we want to avoid are added sugars and refined grain products, both dense sources of carbohydrates with minimal nutrients. In addition to favoring healthy sources of carbohydrates, there are also ways that you can buffer some of their potential negative metabolic effects in how you eat them and what you eat them with. So first, let's break down what are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are a type of macronutrient found in certain foods and beverages. The other macronutrients are fat and protein. Unless you're intentionally following a very low carb diet like keto, you'll likely eat all three as part of a healthy diet. When someone refers to particularly food as a carb, it typically means it contains a higher portion of carbs compared to fats and proteins, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it only contains carbs, unless it's some form of pure sugar, of course. Sugars, starches, and fiber are the main forms of carbohydrates in food. Sugar, starches, and fiber, those are the main forms of carbohydrates. With the exception of fiber, carbohydrates are broken down in the body by digestive enzymes into monosaccharides, aka simple sugars. So except for fiber, carbs are broken down into monosaccharides, simple sugars. Most carbs are broken down into glucose, but depending on the food, some yield fructose and galactose. Glucose is absorbed into the bloodstream via the intestines and serves as a primary fuel source for our cells. It's huge. We need glucose. You might also hear the term complex carbohydrates or simple carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates refers to longer, more complex carb molecules, including starches and fiber, more challenging to break down. Simple carbohydrates refer to simple carb molecules or sugars, easy to break down, easy to absorb. Alone, these terms aren't the most helpful for determining the healthfulness of a carb-containing food. They're not very helpful. Relative to other carbs, simple carbs are broken down and absorbed more rapidly by the body, and thus they are more likely to spike your blood sugar. But complex carbs in the form of starch, they can also elevate blood sugar. Now, fiber, on the other hand, fiber slows down digestion and helps to buffer blood sugar spikes, helps to minimize blood sugar spikes. All of this is why it's important to look at both the total carbs as well as the sugar content and the fiber contained in the food that you're eating. What type of foods contain carbs? Well, carbohydrates can be found in a wide range of foods, from highly processed fare devoid of meaningful nutrition, all the way to whole vegetables, fruits, beans, and grains that are rich in fiber and essential vitamins and minerals. Typically, experts use a food's level of processing to differentiate between high and low quality carbs. So the higher the level of processing, the lower level of quality. But even among whole foods, there are better and there are worse choices when it comes to keeping your blood sugar balanced. If you're aiming for stable blood sugar levels, choose non-starchy vegetables such as broccoli, Brussels sprouts, leafy greens, cauliflower, cucumber, mushrooms, green beans, and cabbage. And lower sugar fresh fruits such as berries and kiwis. And you can also go for moderate sugar fruits that contain decent amount of fiber like apples and oranges. Whole foods that are higher in carbohydrates and more likely to impact blood sugar include starchy vegetables such as butternut squash, sweet potatoes, beets, corn, and parsnips. Beans and lentils are also in that list. High sugar fruits such as bananas, mangoes, and grapes, and whole grains such as quinoa, millet, buckwheat, oats, rice. These can all be part of a nutritious diet, but you may need to be more mindful of your portion sizes when it comes to those things. And you may need to be more mindful of what you pair those foods with and how they impact your blood sugar. So again, whole foods that are higher in carbohydrates that are more likely to impact blood sugar: butternut squash, sweet potatoes, beets, corn, parsnips, beans and lentils can also be on that list. And then high sugar fruits like bananas, mangoes, and grapes, quinoa, oats, rice, those kind of things. Yes, they can be in a nutritious diet, but you might want to know what to pair them with. You might want to be more mindful of the portion sizes. And on the other hand, the more processed and the more refined carbohydrates, the more pronounced the blood sugar spike, the lower quality that carbohydrate is. And it's best to avoid those things. So things like candy and soda and juice, sweeteners, table sugar, honey, maple syrup, that kind of stuff. Honey's great, just in smaller quantities, I think. And foods made from grain-based flours, crackers, cookies, breads, pastas, cereals. Yes, we already know that. Minimize those in your diet if you're looking for this weight loss goal. All of these can be considered acellular carbs. Acellular carbs, meaning that they contain carbs that have been broken out of their natural fiber cell. Someone's taken the fiber away from this food, which is going to speed digestion and make them more likely to spike your blood sugar. So the more it's been impacted by the human touch, the more likely it is that we are going to be taking away the things that nature wanted to have so that we could properly digest this food. So to recap, it might help to look at it this way. Always carbs, always you can eat these carbs, non-starchy vegetables, and low sugar fruits like berries. Maybe eat these carbs, starchy vegetables and legumes, high sugar fruits, and whole grains. And definitely avoid these carbs, sodas, juices, sweeteners, flour-based products, and other highly processed foods. So now that we know what carbohydrates are, let's go into the 12 tips for eating carbs to optimize nutrition and keep your blood sugar steady. Carb-containing foods can be a wonderful addition to a healthy diet, but the exact amount of carbs that you should eat is not a one-size-fits-all. Age, sex, physical activity, body composition goals, and other factors are going to play a role in how much carbs you eat. That's why giving a specific recommendation for daily carbohydrate intake is going to be tricky. In general, though, it's fair to say that 40% or less of your daily calories from carbs is beneficial for most people, 40% or less. And I often lean towards a much tighter range of 30% if someone is really struggling with weight loss. The tighter range works out to consume less than maybe about 150 grams of carbohydrates on a 2,000 calorie per day diet. So if your goal for your weight loss goal is 2,000 calories, about 150 grams of carbohydrates or less could be a good thing to start with when you're trying to figure out your macronutrient distribution. And if you're following an ultra low carb diet, like the keto diet, then cap your intake around 25 or 50 grams of carbs. If you're on keto, 25 to 50 grams or less. But if you don't like counting carbs, that's totally fine too. A potentially better, more flexible way to support metabolic health is to engage in eating habits known to minimize blood sugar spikes, which can be done with varying amounts of carbohydrates per individual. So use these tips as a guide to listen to your body. Number one, cut out added sugars. cut out added sugars, cut out refined grains, and definitely cut out liquid carbohydrates, liquid sugars. When it comes to severe blood sugar spikes, there are the top offenders, and these are them. So start here if you want to start prioritizing where the scale goes. Added sugars, even from natural sources like honey and maple syrup and juices, these are poor sources of micronutrients and can rapidly elevate your blood sugar. Breads, pastas, crackers, desserts, and cereals made with refined grains, these have had their fibrous components removed or ground up in the case of whole grain flours, which promotes the rapid breakdown of carbs, absorption, and glucose into your bloodstream. And liquid carbs, including juices, sodas, and sports drinks, these are an obvious place to cut back. But be smart about your alcohol too. A 12-ounce beer has around 12 grams of carbs. A 5-ounce glass of wine contains 4 grams. And hard liquor, which relatively low in carbs, is often combined with sugary sodas and juices and all that stuff, which can add up. Plus, research suggests that, I know it's not very cool, no amount of alcohol is really good for you, contrary to the popular belief that moderate drinking is healthy. Try low-carb alternatives like seltzer, mocktails, or bitters, or diet sodas. Number 2, opt for whole or minimally processed carb foods. Opt for whole or minimally processed carb foods. Unlike heavily processed foods, whole foods retain their fiber and micronutrients. So even if they deliver some carbs, they're at least packaged with beneficial compounds that help buffer blood sugar spikes and support your metabolic health. I would focus on filling up most of your plate with non-starchy vegetables, which will add a bulk and fiber for your hunger levels, as well as vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Nutritious options include, here's a big list, leafy greens, spinach, kale, arugula, bok choy, Swiss chard, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower and cabbage, things like bell peppers, carrots, and asparagus. Green beans are great, and mushrooms are amazing. Avocado, celery, eggplant, cucumber, artichoke, and there's a huge long list more, but those are like some of the main ones. Other carb-containing whole foods that make a healthy addition to many people's diets include low-sugar, high-fiber fruits, kiwis, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, and my absolute favorite, superfood blueberries. And then moderate sugar, high-fiber fruits such as apples and oranges can also be added in moderation. Legumes are also a great choice. They're higher in protein and fiber than other starchy plant foods and typically don't spike your blood sugar when paired with fat. So here's another pro tip. Navy beans, lima beans, and lentils, these are lower in carbs than other legumes. Navy beans, lima beans, and lentils. So while still nutritious, starchy veggies, whole grains, and high sugar fruits should be generally making up the smaller portion of your diet, you can still add them in. Not all packaged foods are bad either. Minimally processed freezer and pantry staples like canned beans, frozen veggies without sauces, and unsweetened frozen fruits are a great way to keep high quality carb containing foods on hand without going bad. So number 2, you had opt for whole or minimally processed carb foods. Number 3, consider your unique response to carbs. Make sure you consider your unique response to carbohydrates. While all these recommendations that we've said hold true, generally, everyone has a somewhat unique response to the same carb-containing foods. So, for example, you could experience large swings in blood sugar even with whole foods like beans, apples, or oats, while your friends do not. So using a continuous glucose monitor is definitely the easiest way to evaluate your response to specific foods and modify their intake accordingly. But you can also just check your blood sugar after meals with an over-the-counter finger stick test. So it may be helpful to start tracking every once in a while how a certain food makes you spike in your blood sugar. So maybe you start with the foods that you don't really know, like after you eat it, you feel a little bit off, or you feel a little bit weird, or you feel a crash afterwards. Maybe you start testing your blood sugar before you eat it, and 30 minutes to 60 minutes after you eat it, and then maybe an hour after you eat it, just to see what's happening inside your own system. Number 4, don't eat carbs alone. Don't eat carbs alone. As a general rule, when carbohydrates are the primary macronutrient in a food or meal, you would want to pair that with a protein or a fat to slow down digestion and to minimize your post-meal blood sugar elevations. These two macros signal the release of hormones in the gut that slow gastric emptying, thereby reducing the rate at which glucose enters the bloodstream. So this also works with things like desserts. Try pairing a piece of dark chocolate with some nut butter, or make baked goods with collagen or protein powder. If you're going to make a sweet treat, put it with collagen or protein powder. Or if a treat is better on its own, eat it right after a meal containing protein, fiber, and fat, as opposed to just waiting. Number 5, prioritize protein early in the day. A protein-rich breakfast not only helps at the immediate meal, but it can also support healthier glucose levels throughout the rest of the day, including at the next meal. Consider options like a 3-egg scramble or a tofu scramble with bell peppers and onions, Greek yogurt with berries and walnuts, or chia pudding made with a protein powder to set the tone for the day of balanced blood sugar, steady energy, and fewer cravings. Be sure to get sufficient protein over the course of the day too, as suboptimal intake may lead to cravings for sugar. Shoot for around 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight, up to 1 pound of gram per pound of desired body weight. So that's about 113 grams for a 150-pound person, about 140 grams for a 200-pound person. That would be minimum. Number 6, minimize your carbs at night. Your body is generally more insulin sensitive, meaning that your cells are more efficient at taking up the sugar from your bloodstream in the morning. You're more insulin sensitive in the morning, so consuming a carb-rich food earlier in the day, say a banana after lunch rather than dinner, will lead to a milder blood glucose response. At dinner, aim for mostly low-carb foods, such as protein-rich salad or meat with a side of non-starchy vegetable, and try to stop eating a few hours before bed. But if you are going to have carbs late at night, I recommend going for berries. Some experts do say that healthy carbs can help with your sleep, so there is really no one way to do things here. It all just depends on what your goals are and what is working for you. Number 7, pregame with apple cider vinegar or fiber. So if you want to eat pizza and no low-carb alternative will do, drink 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar with a glass of water. And do this before you're eating your pizza to buffer the metabolic impact of that pizza. The acetic acid in apple cider vinegar is thought to curb post-meal elevations in blood sugar in 3 different ways. It suppresses the activity of enzymes responsible for breaking down carbs into simpler sugars that can then be absorbed into your blood, so it slows that process down. It makes cells more efficient in taking up sugar from the bloodstream, so it enhances your insulin sensitivity. And it also slows the rate at which food leaves the stomach and enters the intestine, where then glucose can be absorbed. So it slows that rate. And if you're not into apple cider vinegar, maybe you could try a chia fresca beverage. Mix 1 or 2 spoonfuls of chia seeds with 16 ounces of water, and maybe put in some optional flavor boosters like fresh citrus, because chia seeds are a potent source of fiber and healthy fats, and they contain a bit of protein too, all of which help set the stage for balanced blood sugar. But if you're going to go for apple cider vinegar, just make sure that you drink your apple cider vinegar through a straw, or really rinse your mouth out well afterwards to avoid the acid breaking down your tooth enamel. Number 8, take a quick walk after a carb-rich meal. Post-meal movement is great to support your healthy digestion, and it's especially beneficial after eating high carbohydrate foods. One recent study found that taking periodic 2 to 5 minute walking breaks after a meal significantly lowered post-meal blood sugar levels compared to standing or sitting after you ate. The likely reasons: your muscles are going to use glucose for fuel, so when you're firing those muscles up during exercise, you increase the uptake of glucose from the bloodstream, which is going to lower your blood sugar levels. So move after you eat. Number 9, seek out satisfying low-carb alternatives. Some low carbohydrate foods make surprisingly delicious stand-ins for carbohydrate-rich favorites like noodles, breads, and other things like that. And they completely upgrade the nutrient profile of your meal when you substitute these alternatives. So you could use frozen cauliflower instead of banana to bulk up a smoothie, or turn a head of cauliflower into a cauliflower rice or cauliflower mash that's surprisingly close to mashed potatoes. Try almond flour tortillas. You could try homemade flax wraps, coconut wraps, leafy greens like collards or romaine lettuce, nori sheets, which are seaweed, or bell pepper halves as an alternative to traditional tortillas or sandwich bread. You could use zucchini noodles, beet noodles, carrot noodles, or spaghetti squash. You could use kelp noodles and long, thin enoki mushroom. Those all make low-carb, nutrient-rich noodle alternatives. Even certain packaged noodles like edamame spaghetti pack significantly more protein and fiber than traditional spaghetti noodles, which will buffer their impact on blood sugar. For something sweet, they have low-carb, high-fiber ice cream alternatives. Message me if you want some of those. And they have blood sugar-friendly desserts as well. You could do a small portion of higher cacao, 75% or more, dark chocolate from brands like Alter Eco or Hue or Lindt. And then you could upgrade your condiments with low sugar, low carb options from brands like Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen has some great stuff. Or make one of these delicious do-it-yourself dressings that they have on the internet. You could make some that have no added sugar. So those are all good ways to seek out satisfying low carb alternatives. Number 10, consider net carbs. But don't fall for marketing claims. The term net carbs refers to the number of carbs broken down and digested in the body that impact your blood sugar. And to calculate your net carbs, you're going to subtract the grams of fiber, erythritol, and allulose, and half the grams of other sugar alcohols from the total carbohydrate content. For whole or minimally processed foods without these added sweeteners, you'd simply just subtract the fiber from the total carb content. So total carbs minus fiber equals your net carbs. Calculating net carbs allows individuals more flexibility to consume nutrient-rich foods like fruits and vegetables and legumes and still fall within the preferred carbohydrate range that they're looking for. However, foods with low net carb counts are best consumed in moderation. Processed foods with sugar alcohols and added fiber may cause GI distress in some people, and they often contain additives or preservatives, so just be careful with those. Number 11, when choosing high fiber foods, consider the carb to fiber ratio. As mentioned, fiber falls under the carbohydrate category, but it can actually help manage your blood sugar levels as opposed to elevating them. Since it's largely passing through the GI tract and without being broken down into glucose, fiber doesn't really get absorbed by the body. What you're looking for is a total carbohydrate to fiber ratio of less than 5-1. So less than 5-1. So if your food has 10 grams of total carbs, then it should have at least 2 grams of fiber, 5-1, unless it's a food that doesn't naturally contain fiber like cheese or plain yogurt. So look for that 5-1 ratio when you're looking for carbs to fiber. You don't have to be strict on a low carb or keto diet. Number 12, you don't have to be strict on a low carb or keto diet. While it can be tempting and sometimes quite helpful to slash carbs in the name of a balanced blood sugar and metabolic health goal, certain people may have a higher demand. People like performance athletes, very lean people, kids, nursing or pregnant women, and some women in their reproductive years may need more carbs to feel their best. One reason? Well, very low carb diets can alter levels of important hormones, such as leptin, which regulates your hunger, and T3, active thyroid hormone, which plays a key role in metabolism. So because leptin is secreted primarily by white fat cells and responds to changes in blood sugar, an individual with low body fat might benefit from a higher carb diet so that they don't experience excessive hunger levels. Leptin can also impact the reproductive cycle via a HPG axis, which it's going to be a long word, hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. So very lean, active women should be careful not to restrict carbohydrates too much, as it may cause menstrual irregularities. And if you fall into one of these groups, you don't need to eat high carb. You may just need to scale up just a little bit until you find that sweet spot that supports both your physical demands and your metabolic health. You may also be a prime candidate for carb cycling, an approach where you generally eat low carb or even keto, but periodically you intersperse higher carb days that correspond with your increased activity or certain phases of your menstrual cycle to support hormone balance and or workout performance. Higher carb days when you need more glucose can work in your favor by providing sufficient energy for your workouts, accelerating recovery, supporting optimal health, and allowing your body to efficiently use both carbs and fat for energy, known as metabolic flexibility. But keep pairing your carbs with proteins and healthy fats to curb those spikes. That's important. Remember that your journey towards a healthier, fitter self is not about quick fixes or shortcuts. It's about embracing a lifestyle that nourishes your body and your brain and your mind. And yes, it might be challenging at times and setbacks are gonna occur. Yes, it requires commitment, sacrifice, discipline, but it's essential to focus on progress, not perfection. You have now armed yourself with the knowledge to make informed choices about calories, fat loss, and the incredible potential of healthy carbs. Let this knowledge be the fuel that propels you forward, knowing that you have the power to shape your own destiny. Small, consistent steps towards your goals will accumulate into remarkable transformations over time. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate every milestone, big or small, and stay committed to the process. Surround yourself with a supportive community that uplifts and encourages you, and remember that you're not alone on this journey. Believe in your inner strength, embrace the challenges, and celebrate the victories, no matter how small they may seem. You are capable of achieving greatness, and your health and your well-being are so worth the investment of time and effort. So now get to work toward your goals with confidence, inspired by your newfound knowledge, and empowered to live a life of vitality and wellness. You've got this. And that's it, my friends, for this episode. Share the knowledge that you gained with your friends and family and hold each other accountable. If you enjoyed this content, it helps us a ton if you could post on your social media stories a screenshot of this episode with one takeaway that you learned, and make sure that you tag me and share your journey. Tag me at Living the Dream Podcast or at CoachDamian_SD, and let us know how this episode benefited you. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what we got wrong. Tell us how you have used carbs, how you have used these fat loss cheat codes and mastered your fat loss goals. Message us if you have any suggestions or tips that would help your Living the Dream team that we can discuss on future episodes. I'll be right here with you, working on making us stronger, happier, and healthier humans. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.